as everybody is aware now, yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers did go out there and make a new addition to this team. Larry Ogunjobi signed into a 1-year deal. I haven't seen the financial details just yet. Have you? Are they released just yet?
There's something updated, at least. A 1-year deal worth up to $8 million, including incentives.
Okay. So there we go. Worth up to $8 million. So that is definitely good. So let's talk about that part first because, or actually, I'll continue to give a little backstory. So with Larry, this is going to be his 6th season. He played 5 seasons thus far, 4 with Cleveland where he was drafted in the 3rd round. And then he had the 1 season with Cincinnati last year. Career high in sacks, career high in QB hits. I think it was 16 QB hits.
7 sacks?
Yeah, 7 sacks. I think it was like 12 tackles for loss. He's also had double-digit QB hits 2 more times in his career in Cleveland early on. He had 5.5 sacks back-to-back seasons. It was like 12 QB hits, 13 QB hits, and then the tackles for loss as well. So he's definitely been a productive player, not a one-hit wonder. This offseason, though, obviously he was in line to sign a $40 million deal to go to Chicago. He's coming off the, I think it was the Liz Frank, if I remember correctly. And yeah, at that time, they failed him for the physical. For those that might have seen that and say, well, hey, man, does this mean that he wasn't in shape and now he is in shape? What does that mean? Just simply is every team has their doctors and they want to have their doctors review you. They're going to look at you from a medical only perspective. They don't care in March if you can run, a 40-yard dash in 4.2 seconds and not get tired because you're not supposed to be in shape like that then, just, technically. But the reason why he fell was because his foot. At that time, the doctors weren't comfortable with what his foot was or the condition of it. And that's why they ultimately failed him and that voided the contract. And that's why he was ultimately able to still be on the market. So the big question surrounding him right now is what is his health status? I haven't really seen a lot of information on it, but what I will say is this, based on the contract, now that we know the money associated with it, up to $8 million, but it's incentives, it makes me feel like he still is on the recovery right now. I do think he'll definitely play this year. Don't get it twisted. It's not going to be like how Tuitt situation was, where it was not the death part, but the more open-ended. We don't know when he's coming back, if he's going to come back. Do anticipate Larry being back this season. Like I said, with the incentives, though, it just makes me feel like he might miss some time at the beginning of the year. That's my only thing. I thought if it was more guaranteed or like $8 million strong, like that's just the contract, then it would be like, hey man, we know this guy's ready to go week 1. He's going to be here. Let's start it up and let's roll. The incentive just makes me think like, hey, he could potentially be dealing with something early on, but if he gets healthy like he can be, this dude is definitely capable of playing up to that level.
Oh yeah. It's saying right here, Steelers expecting to have Larry Ogunjobi ready to go for training camp. So definitely still dealing with the recovery process. Yeah. But hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, but no, I definitely like the move, though, a lot, man. It's just a ton to break down with him. I talked about it some on the film session, man, showing some of the things we're going to talk about right now, just some of his strengths and weaknesses. But to me, man, Larry answers, number one, the most important need, which is Stephon Tuitt retiring. I know the ESPN, I think ESPN.com, they had him listed as the nose tackle starting at nose and had Wormley starting at the DN spot. To me personally, I think that Larry starts the DN spot. They keep Tyson starting at that nose spot. But Larry is capable of playing both positions. Honestly, he's a guy that he's a 3-down D lineman. You could play him sub package. You could play him in the base package. You could play him at the nose. You could play him at the 5 technique. He's fast. He's explosive. He understands in terms of gap assignment, fundamentally sound. He is risky though at times. So when we talk about pros and cons with him, he makes tackles for losses. He shoots gaps and is great when he's making those plays. But at the same time, it can hurt you at times, right? If he misses that play or, if he takes the chance at the wrong time, which does happen at times. And that's just a part of being a playmaker. So I never fault that. But I just think that he's one of those guys that you can keep him in a one-on-one. He can win a one-on-one. You can use him, working with a TJ Watt, working with Alex Highsmith in a game type situation, pass rush. He can win with that. Against the run, he could play the double team. Like I said, you could put him at the nose. He could play that as well. Like, it's not a lot of negative. To me, the biggest negative is just how healthy is he going to be? The reports, like you just said right there, saying, training camp capacity, we'll see him out there. To me, that's great news. That's great news. But
does that bump up your timeline a little bit then?
I still don't want to bump it up just because it's like, if he failed a physical in March, for a foot. I'm just trying to think like
he must have passed ours, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, no, because everybody's physical is different, and that's the other part. It's like Chicago might have been saying, "Hey, I don't want to pay you $40 million if I don't know if I'm going to have you until week 3," because his recovery, it hasn't shifted. I mean, if anything, it might speed up a little bit, but it's not going to be a drastic change from whenever he had the surgery and they say, hey, this is your recovery. This is the next stage. This is the next stage. That's the next stage. So it could have just been that instead of him being at this stage in March, he was at this stage. So Chicago could have been like, man, we thought that you were just, more healthy, a little bit further along. We don't want to touch it right now.
Well, especially with them being in like a rebuild mode.
Right. So it's like, hey, we don't want to deal with that. For us, it's different context. It's a little bit further in the all season now, right? We're in June here. And it's like, hey, man, we just lost our star D lineman. We're desperate. All right, who else is on the market? Yeah, we got Ndamukong Suh. Yeah, we could talk about Eddie Goldman, but it's like, yo, with those guys, they got their own baggage. They got their own things that you would have to address and stuff like that. So you look at Larry and you say, man, is it a fit? All right, can he play this position? Does he give you position flexibility? All right, are you strengthening yourself while weakening a division opponent? All right, you check that off as well. So when you talk about those things, it's like, man, we're willing to take that risk for him, and seeing that it's up to $8 million in incentives, that means that this contract is still going to be very manageable. You know what I mean? Like, it could be $4 million that was guaranteed, $5 million that's guaranteed. Who knows? But the incentives taking it up to 8, that's a good thing for the team. So that's why for me, it's just like, man, it just makes sense, the timing of it, and it makes sense for the contract to be like that. Like I said, if it was just 1 year, 8, and that was fully guaranteed, it's a different conversation. But with it being incentives, it's like they're protecting themselves as well. But I just think timing wise, he's just further along. March versus June, further along.
And we're trying to compete here.
Yeah.
Where I could see with the Bears, them being in rebuild mode, and them just saying, hey, man, like with this injury, it's not worth it. We'd love to have you on the squad, but we're going to suck anyway. Yeah. I'd rather suck and not have to pay you $40 million, $40 million bucks and not knowing what's happening with the injuries than having to do it. You know what I mean?
And then on top of that, I even think of the situation where he went, because he took a visit to the Jets as well prior to coming to us. And I was like, man, all right. Is that the case there? Like, what's going on with their mindset? Do they feel the same? Like, hey, man, we don't want to pay that type of money, or maybe he wanted, that type of money. Who knows what was going on in those negotiations? But either way, I guess I just like it across the board for us. And
I feel like it's a great fit.
Yeah, and I mean, first off, you talk about, him obviously being a former UNC Charlotte 49er. Shout out to him for that.
Yeah. That's I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how
recently.
But that's how I met him.
Really?
Yeah, because like I said, my college strength coach during 15-16 time frame, or excuse me, 14-15-16, now that I think about it, was their strength coach down there. And during that time, that's when I had my house in Charlotte. I would always go down there and train with those dudes. Yeah, man, Larry was a cool cat, man, good dude. But it's like, you see that and it's like, man, just on a personal level, like, good dude, you know what I mean? And we know the whole Mason history and stuff like that, and we'll definitely address it. We'll talk about it. But as a whole, though, I think, man, like, he's a guy that guys are going to want to be around. He's a fun dude to be around. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a nice fit. That's how I look at it. But yes, for the whole Mason thing, yeah, was he involved in a little scuffle-rooski with my man Mason? Sure he was. And that's fine, because at that time, they were opposition. You got to stick up for your guy.
It's not a big deal.
It ain't that big of a deal. Nah, not at all. Not at all. I think, now you're on the same team. We're competing for a championship. That's what we're doing. So we know what the common goal is. That, that's the focus. And worst case scenario, if you got to pick between Larry and Mason, hey, Mason, can you come sit in the front seat real quick? We're going to take a little ride around the corner. I'm going to sit in the back right behind you. Don't worry about it. All right, just keep looking forward to it. We'll have one of them. We take the ride around the corner. I'll come back. Where Mason go? I don't know. But Larry's here still. You know what I mean? Like that. If they cannot come on one accord. But to me, I don't think that's going to be an issue at all, man. I think that, when you talk about guys coming into an NFL locker room, we've all had beef with somebody or somebody's friend or somebody at some time in the NFL. And then eventually y'all become teammates. And you're like, oh, so how you want to do this? Are we going to just fight every day?
He's protecting his guy or protecting his team.
Right.
I mean, we would be celebrating it if it was Pouncey or like Harrison. You know what I mean?
And I say you would look at him crazy if he did not say something, if he did not have his guys back. That's how I always looked at it. It's like, man, when we would talk about them Cincinnati Bengals, right? The whole Burfict situation and all that. Anytime we had a chance to talk to them dudes, like, they were around the scenario, and it's like, bro, we knew he was wrong. We knew he was tripping. We didn't want to do it, but that's our guy. So we're going to roll with it. I'm like, I know the feeling because there's been some fights that we done been in. And it's like, bro, why are we even fighting right now? Why would you even say, like, bro, you dead wrong for that. But I got to roll because you my man. It's like, yeah. So when I look at that Larry situation, I think it's the exact same thing, bro. It's like, hey, man, you got to roll what you do. All right, I get it, man.
Yeah, obviously a cheap
what
shot.
You do, man.
But also, obviously, nothing personal against Mason. Yeah. That could have been any quarterback. It's just, absolutely. If a scuffle's happening, I'm going to try to defend my dude.
Absolutely.
And like I said...
You would have my back if I was in a scuffle? You would
I try. I give my best efforts.
If I was losing, you would save me?
I try. I might... Maybe I'll call 911 or something.
You said we both going to be getting beat up if that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's... Probably the
at least
most
we could come
scenario.
on the show and we both have like black eyes together.
Stories,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. It'll be dope. By the time we make it back, we're gonna say it was like 50 people that jumped us, bro. You know how that go.
Am I wrong in saying after Stephon Tuitt retired, this is probably the best fit or the best player that we could get?
Yes, age, productivity, money. I thought across the board fit. Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking Hargrave initially, but whenever we talked about Hargrave,
he's
maybe
more
not
true nose. Yeah,
maybe not the best fit on the defensive line.
Yeah, because he's true nose, or when you go sub package ball, you bump him out there to that 3 tech, and that's fine. But in our base defense, we're asking our guys to play 5 techniques. There's a lot more space, and for Larry, when you watch how he's built, he's built similar to a Hargrave in a sense, right? So you don't expect him to be able to be athletic and rangy enough to play out there. But when you cut the tape on, he changed directions extremely well. And I think that even though he's a good athlete, I think that he plays hard. So you'll watch him shoot gaps at times. And even though he has to change direction, sure, if you're asking him to, hey, man, race this guy, is he going to lose the race? Probably. But when you watch how, okay, he understands, I got to get to this point, this thing I need to take, and he puts his head down and he runs like a son of a gun. Like, that's the other part that I like a lot about him. Because especially when you talk about big body D linemen, effort is always the big question. Is this guy going to play hard? Is he going to play hard more times than not? If the player's over there, is he going to run to the ball? Which is why I added one of those clips up there to show that on his film session. But with him, though, man, it's like this dude, bro, like his change of direction, his ability to just foot in the ground, get down the line. He's making plays on some screen stuff. Like, that's the part where it separates him from, like I said, a Hargrave. Because even though Hargrave is athletic, I just don't know space-wise. That's a bit much to ask him to do when you're talking about, I mean, bro, Larry's lining up on Trent Williams, the $100 million left tackle out in San Fran. Like, that's a different element than when you're talking about Hargrave potentially line up on like a guard and stuff. You know what I mean? And even Sue doesn't do a ton of that. Oh, bump out there and play 5 technique. He's 4-3 down D lineman, 3 technique, shooting the gap. So for Larry, I mean, it does across the board make the most sense at this time of year based on who we had available. But
because with Hargrave, we would have had to trade for him, or anyone else that isn't a free agent.
Yeah, and Hargrave would have cost a lot more. Hargrave cost a lot more money, man.
Definitely outside of the free agents. Yeah. I think we would have put Ogunjobi at the top between probably him Goldman, and Sue.
Yeah, I would say him and Eddie, yeah. And I thought Sue, even though Sue was the most accomplished, I thought Sue was third on that list because of his age.
And maybe less of a fit, as you were just saying
absolutely.
Right there. Mm-hmm. Could have done some of that 5 technique stuff, but hasn't really done it throughout his career.
Yeah. Whereas I can pull up clips last year, like of Larry playing in this style of defense, but you can also pull up clips of Larry in Cleveland where it was a different style of defense. But that's the thing when you talk about a guy that's position flexible, who can play all 3 interior D lineman spots. That's what Larry brings, and that's why he was in line to get paid what he was going to get paid. That's why Larry has been a successful player in this league. You don't, not just even the pass rush part, but the tackles for loss, that part, you're not getting that without consistently being a fundamentalist, being a crazy hard player, like, because the NFL is just too hard to make plays. Like, that's why a lot of guys don't make a ton of plays, because it's the best of the best. You know what I mean? But when you talk about Larry, like, he has that type of work ethic. He has that type of motor when you cut the film on, and that's why he's been able to do what he's done. I'm just hoping, like I said, if the sooner he gets healthy, bro, the scarier we are, because now you're talking about you can't double team Cam and TJ. You can't double team them both and try to double team Larry, because Larry at times at the end of the year, he was starting to get that double team action. That was what was going on because you couldn't single block. He could switch. That's why you see the career high in sacks and tackles for sacks and QB hits last year. Like, he's just started understanding that, hey man, multiple ways, whether it be finesse, whether it be physicality, whether it be gains, whether it be inside stunt, outside effort plays, like just across the board, he showed that. And that's nice, man. That's, you talk about a guy continuing to get better, a guy coming into his prime. That's what we're getting. Just got to get him healthy.
I got a couple questions.
Yeah, let's talk about it, man.
Upgrade over Tuitt?
I'm gonna say no, and this is why. We'll put it like it's an upgrade just first off because he's available. We know, like,
played more recently too.
Yeah, so in that capacity, sure, because he is here, and we know mentally he wants to be here. We know this is his.
He's playing for a big contract too.
Like, we know where he's at. Whereas we didn't have Tuitt last year, and if he would have came back this year, who knows what that would have been mentally for him, physically as well. But the reason I won't say it's an upgrade is because athletically, bro, Tuitt is a freak athlete. Tuitt is probably one of the top 5 most athletic guys I've ever seen. Like, he reminds me of Mario Williams, the first $100 million defender. The first, because we paid him in Buffalo. The number 1 over Reggie Bush draft.
Texans, yeah,
absolutely. So Tuitt puts me in the mind of him. Now, Mario still was off the chart outlier. I've never ever come close to seeing a guy that size, that athletic, still to this day. And I've seen a lot of football, I've seen a lot of players, I've watched a lot of tape as well. I've never seen somebody like that, not even close, bro. But to me, Tuitt, in terms of his size, his frame, that dude is so athletic, the speed, the change of direction. Like, to me, Larry just isn't that caliber athlete, but Larry is still a productive player. So in a weird sense, it's like, you could say that you'll probably, when it's hard to say, well, I was gonna say I would call Larry more consistent throughout his career, because I think Tuitt, when Tuitt is on, Tuitt's on is like kind of like we talk about, like, when we talk like, oh man, I'd rather have a guy that has like 2 amazing seasons, whereas I'd rather have a guy that had 10 like really good seasons. You know what I mean? But just the context of it. Whereas to me, I think of Tuitt like that. I think of Tuitt like how he was the final year we saw him play here. That thing was crazy. How he's had moments where it's like, yo, you might be the best D lineman.
2.5 sacks, like, 3 sacks in a game type of stuff. Yeah.
Like, that's what you're capable of. But we also will remember Tuitt has some games where it's like, yo, is he out here? Where are you at?
Browns game, the wild card.
Whereas with
that
Larry,
whole defensive line was terrible.
Yeah, whereas with Larry, I don't feel like you have the spikes as much, but his high, I don't think his ceiling is anywhere to where Tuitt's is. But I think his floor is higher, though, because I think that he's just a more consistent player in that capacity.
Another thing to think about is he's getting paid less than Tuitt.
Oh, yeah.
Up to 8.
Yeah.
What was Tuitt's contract? It was in the double digits. 11 or 12, right? Mm-hmm. We saved 9 when he retired.
Correct.
Dude, Omar Khan, I don't know how he's pulling this off.
Yeah, Omar cooking, man. Omar.
You got to assume what? His deal's probably 5 or 6, and then the incentives are like 2 or 3.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm either 5 or 6, or I say 4 and 5. And they just have me in terms of like the sacks, in terms of, all right, how we are against the run, postseason success. I'm sure it's going to have some of that type of stuff in there.
Incredible value, even if you're saying not a definitive upgrade over Tuitt, but just to get Ogunjobi at $4 or $5 million versus Tuitt at 11, 12, whatever it was.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't call him an upgrade, but this is like when you talk about the value, though, this is just up there. Absolutely. That contract, all those things we just talked about, on 100%.
Yeah, the only thing you're worrying about is the injury. Yeah. But you got to think, as I mentioned, him playing on a contract year like this, and if these reports are true, ready by training camp, all signs are pointing in the right direction. His defense is going to be lethal.
No, it should be, man.
If he's healthy.
Yeah.
Another thing. This is just more of a thought. Do you have any takeaways from these incentives on the deals now?
No, I was going to say, I like that.
Right, with the incentives, and now
if this is an Omar thing, because obviously when Trubisky was here, we know that Cobra was still
but maybe
the guy.
Khan had, no, I was going to say Khan had influence, but they didn't know who was going to be the GM at that point.
Yeah, because that's what I was trying to figure out, but he technically still would be in that conversation.
Maybe it was a new wrinkle that Colbert found. He's passing on to Khan. He found out about incentives now.
Think about this, though. Who is the negotiator of the contracts? Told you Omar. So Omar is in these, like, whether it was the voidable years that we saw from a year ago, Omar is in those conversations. These incentives, Omar could very much be in there and have been telling Colbert, like, look, man, this is the new wave. This is what we need to start doing more. This is what we need to evolve to. Maybe that was why they chose him over Brandon Hunt and company. Who knows? But the incentives I like. I mean,
doesn't hurt you.
No, not at all. For me as a player, it's like, it's a I got a love-hate relationship with incentives as a player, but from a business standpoint, I like incentives when you're trying to get big fish. And Larry, during this time of year, is a big fish. And why do you need incentives to get the big fish? You don't have to guarantee that money. You don't have to give it all up on the front end. But it's like you're dangling that carrot in front of them. Hey, I need you. I don't want to pay you this just yet. But if you ball out and do all these other things, oh, you'll get that. You'll get that. That's essentially what an incentive is, right? That's what it is. It's just, come here. Oh, almost. Oh, all right, now you got it. Or you're close, but you didn't get this one. But you got all these other ones. That's good. And then as the owner, hey, man, we won. We're great. As a player, love-hate relationship because it's like, man, you want your money guaranteed, less risk. Don't want to play around with injury, stuff like that, or just having a bad season. So that's the part where it's like you don't like it. But at the same time, I've benefited from incentives. That was how I got my first, like, breakout, the big boy check coming, you know what I mean, through my incentives. Just steady, you hit it, and it's like, oh man, all right. So it's like it's a gift and a curse. Like I said, it's fun, but it's a lot harder to get those incentives because it's a lot of things that got to go right. But if you're a team, that's a weapon. You use it. You use that, baby.
Well, especially when you have guys like Juju or Trubisky, or in this case as well, Ogunjobi, who, I don't want to say with Ogunjobi, maybe in a way, just because of the injuries, but they're on prove-it years.
No, absolutely they are.
So
prove-it years.
It doesn't hurt the player.
Yeah, without prove-it style deals. Because like a prove-it deal typically is like minimum, right? Or $1 million. But it's like, yeah, that's a nice way to put it. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, on a prove-it deal. I think it doesn't hurt the player. Like, if that's the best deal you're going to get, or maybe say the money's pretty much equal, or maybe you could get $1 million or $2 million more guaranteed somewhere else, but you're in a better situation and the incentives could be more, then yeah, I think it could make sense for a player.
Yeah.
Especially if it's only on like a 1-year deal or something like that.
Excuse me, I would agree.